Hello, today I'll continue making Goblins in Unity, and today I'll be working on the jump state. So I'll start by creating the transitions. So I'll create another one. Player is ground, and also player is trying to jump, but I'll be working first on the player is ground. So let's make this sealed. Inherit from the player state. Let's move this namespace. Okay. And here I need to check if the player is ground. And for that, I'll be doing actually on the fixed update, I'll be doing a box cast. Alright. And for that, let's create box collider, player collider, box cast non-alloc, and transform. Actually, let's use the player collider. Where's the center? Center. The collider size, the angle 0, the direction will be down because the ground is always below the player, and the results will be private recast to hit today, recast hit. Alright, close new, recast hit, and we can just give this one. Okay. And we can also make this read only. Oh, I forgot. If I guess we can also use layer mask. Yep. I'll create another one. Uh, ground mask. Or what is ground? What layer is ground? Alright. Oh, layer. Uh, let me override the initialize. And here I'll get the player collider is equals player components reference public box collider. Okay, let me get this. And we are starting to reference a lot of components, but I will deal with that later. Alright, let me just try to debug the recast hit. Okay. Forgot to create the asset menu. Create asset menu. File name. This is script name. And the menu name would be, let me get this menu name right here. Alright. So let's create this. Well, this is actually a transition. So transition. And check transition will be right here. And initialize right here. Forgot to do that. Uh, okay, just for testing. Create. Uh, where's the player ground? Yes. Alright, so let's rename this to the player's ground. I forgot to do that. And create the scriptable object. Create transitions is ground. What layer? Everything for now. Let me create a random collider. Okay. Okay, that's good. Press play. And here on the player settings, the states actually, I'll be adding the is ground. And I forgot to initialize. Is ground. Okay. Let's see if it's working. It's colliding, the player is colliding to itself. So let me create these layers right now. Layer, ground, and right here, the physics, the player will not collide with the player, and the ground not collide with the ground. Okay. This square will be ground, the player will be the player, and here, what is ground will be ground. Play. Um, Alright, so the problem was that I forgot to add the ground check distance here on the box cast, because as you can see, it requires a distance check, and if I remove this, it will not consider the layer mask. It's getting the distance instead. So if I just add this ground check distance, and just also refactor the using statements and go back to Unity, you can see that I can just pass a value like 0.1. If I press play, you can see that it's working because here on the states, I'm using as condition to switch between these states, but I can just remove, right? And right here as well. Alright, so now it's working, the is ground transition, but I also need to check the jump transition if the player pressed the jump button. So I will go to the player input actions. Here on the actions, I will add the jump. Uh, and the binding will be the space, save asset. Okay. And I will create another one. Player is trying to jump. Okay. And I will inherit from the player. Actually, first let's move this script to the game, state machine, player, player transition, condition base, implement this. Add this use. Alright. Now I need to check if the player pressed the jump button. And for that, I need the player input reference, player input controller, player inputs controller, and inside the player input, I need to create a public input action, and that will be the jump player jump action. All right, and the player jump action will be assigned to the. I guess I can. I'm using the player input, so I guess I can just assign through the inspector first. All right, field. Guess I should have uh, created a class for that, but for now let's just try using like this. And the private input action, jump action, and we return if the jump action was performed this frame. Right, this will be our condition. And we don't need this player input controller. All right, remove this. Can just do the same thing here. Okay. Now I can go back to Unity. And I can create, oh, I forgot to, let me create this asset menu. Forgot to add the solid class. Okay. Create players, transitions, players trying to jump. Okay. And then I can move to the player jump state. Of this namespace. Alright. So here on the jump state, I need a ref to the player animator, Rigidbody, and yeah, that's it. So I'll create private Rigidbody, player Rigidbody, override the initialize. Okay. Now once I enter the state, I will jump. All right. And I don't need to exit, or I just need to enter. Okay. And I'll just create a read-only string, and this is actually a constant convention, name convention. I'll be rename this to the player um, jump idle jump animation. All right. Oh, let's remove this. This one will be player idle jump. This one will be the moving jump. All right. Okay. Guess that's all we need. The jump state. All right. And add this right here. And once we enter the state, we'll be adding, getting the player versus the body. Let's actually play the animation first. So I'll be checking if the player versus the body dot x is not equals to 0. Then we play the player moving jump. Else we play the idle. And this will be a function. So private void play jump animation. And here I can just dot add force will be impulse. All right. And for the force direction, we actually need to get um, the velocity. But instead of creating a private float, I'll actually be creating a serialized field, private float, and instead of jump force, we'll be creating a jump height and using the impact velocity formula. So the impact velocity formula, it's pretty simple. We just need to calculate the square root of 2 times gravity times height, and this 2 is the 2 is constant, and the gravity will be uh, our physics to the gravity scale. Uh, but instead of getting the vector, we'll be getting the magnitude, the length of the gravity, and instead of getting the impact velocity, we'll be getting the jump velocity. All right. So v is the impact velocity, and in this case will be our jump velocity based on our height, and g is the acceleration due to gravity, the our in this case our gravity magnitude in the physics engine, and the height will be our variable, the jump height. All right. So let me calculate this by float. Actually, will be right here. Float jump force, and here initialize will be jump force is equals to the math square root of 2 times physics to d dot gravity dot magnitude times jump height. Alright, so we can just new vector 2, and we can just for now add this and then the jump force. Alright, and play the jump animation. Alright, um, and don't forget to sometimes the player has its own gravity scale, so you make sure that that is consistent even if you change this. So let's also multiply this vector magnitude by the player Rigidbody dot gravity scale. Alright, now it will work, but I also need to add the create asset menu. So I'll create the player jump state. The state transitions will be only to idle, and the condition will be if we are on the ground. And the jump height for now 0.5, I guess. Okay, and we can jump, can transition to jump if we are on ground, and it's also trying to jump. And also do the same thing on the movement. Oh, to jump actually. If we are on ground and we are trying to jump. Now let me add this jump state, and if I press play, um, we are jumping, but right here, we are on ground, and we are trying to jump. Uh, yeah. Okay. These two conditions needs to be true, but we are actually checking if any of these conditions are true. So let me see what we can do. Alright, so in order to check all the conditions, if it needs to be true or not, I will be adding a new field right here, public bool um, all conditions match needs to match. Alright, and then here on the state machine base, um, right here I'll be checking like the same thing, uh, but I'll be checking for each transition, and if the transition dot all condition needs to match, uh, we'll be looping through all the conditions, and instead of um, checking the condition and return the state, I'll be actually check the transition, and if it's false, if it's not true, um, I create a boolean, all conditions match, all conditions match, it equals false, and I'll just break, right? And I guess I don't need to make this. I'll make this true. And then I can just turn false right here. Let me just remove this, right? And we check for each state transitions. If the condition is to match, we check all the conditions. And if the conditions does not match, we return false. Let me actually return false. We don't need this actually. Alright. And this will be a function. Okay. I'll be creating a function for this. And now I guess we'll create inside the current state bool all transition conditions match it, and we do this. All right. If it is not check, we return false. Else we return true. And then we can paste this here. We can't remove this. And I guess instead of looping through all the conditions, I actually need to remove this and create one right here and pass as parameter the transition state transition. All right. Now right here, uh, for each state transition, we check if transition dot all conditions needs to match. We call the all transitions method, passing our current transition right here. And if that's true, we return the transition dot transition state. Turn. Else we just continue looping through all the conditions. All right. Uh, I think that's good. Now I can go to the transitions states actually, and here on the idle, I can here when I come to the jump state, all conditions needs to match, and the same thing to the movement. Now if I press play, it's still not working because right, I forgot to add the return new right here. Okay, let's try again. Let's add the isGround play. I'm moving. All right. There's some kind of delay right here. Sometimes it's not working. But let me try press jump. Alright, so instead of getting input action, you need to get the input action reference. So when we try to jump, we can just use the player jump action that was performed so that we can directly get the jump biting input. And also we need to uh, start the player jump right here on the settings. And if we press play, you can see that it's not jumping. It's jumping, but not correctly because uh, we are transitioning to the player idle state if we are on the ground. And when we jump, we still on the ground. That's why we get this weird behavior. And to fix that, we need to create another transition. Player is not jumping. It will be a very simple transition. Player transition. And here, you just need to access the Rigidbody. And to check, we just need to return the player Rigidbody dot velocity dot y is not equals to 0. Player Rigidbody is equals to player components reference dot player Rigidbody. Yeah, we could also use this transition as like player is falling, but let's just keep like player is not jumping. And this actually needs to be right this. And instead of getting the velocity equals to exact 0, we can just math dot approximately the player by the velocity and 0. Alright, and also create the asset menu. Alright, let's create this transition. Oh, player. It's not um it's not jumping. Initialize right here. And here on the states, I can transition to the either state if I'm on ground and I'm not jumping. That all conditions needs to match. Alright, now if I press play, you can see that I'm jumping. Alright, so I found the fix to the problem. That is freeze rotation, because as you can see, we are not rotating. The rotation is 0, but the velocity is going crazy because the physics is trying to uh, rotate our object, right? But if we freeze that, you can see that it's now all good. And if I just jump, I start to falling. All right. And to jump height, I guess it's pretty small. Let me increase this. I think that's good, but now we need to increase the gravity. So I'll increase right over here. Yeah, that's good. And the jump height remains the same because remember that we multiply the gravity magnitude times by the player rigidbody gravity scale. And you can see that even if we jump, we can't change the directions. We can still rotate the player, but we can't just like jump to the left and start goes to the right, like the original game. And that's pretty cool. Alright, so that's it. I guess the basic mechanics, it's all good for now. Uh, Let me just do some refactoring here. Uh, so first, on the player is not jumping, create the using statement. Alright. Now on the this is good. The player's trying to jump. We can remove this and actually use right here. Remove this. Okay. And state machine base. And right here on the check current state transitions, we check if all transitions match it, or we could also create any transition condition match it, right? And the state transitions, of course. And we do the same thing here. In transitions condition match it, and for each transition, we can just check if condition check transition, we return true. Else, if none of these conditions match, just return false. Alright, and then we can just get right here if any transition condition match it, and that transition, we return this. Okay. And instead of creating this nested if, you can just create and statement. Add all. And then we just move this if right here and check if the transition dot all conditions need to match is equals to false, and condition match it, we return this. Else we will be checking if all conditions need to match and all match it, and then we return the same thing. Alright. Else we return no. Here in the player jump state, I actually removed the player velocity because I wasn't changing the velocity directly, so we don't need to add any force on the axis. That's why 0 right here. And let's just create a space right here. The jump height is okay. This is okay as well. I'll just create a function that will return a float. Calculate jump force, and then just return this. Where's the, oh, right here. Okay. Player jump state is good. They both did the same thing. I guess the next part I'll be also creating the sharp generated class instead of this movement, but I'll check later. It's not moving. I'll just use this using game entities. Okay. And here on the player's ground, I think it's all good. And yeah, that's it. All the states are good. And on the next part, I'll be working on the ladder. All right. And yeah, that's it. The jump is working, movement idle, and it's all going good. All right. The next part will be the ladder.
And that's, I guess the attack will be after that. Okay? And I'll see you in the next part. See you there.